everyone, welcome back to the channel. In my previous sessions, which is basically Agentic AI series, I talked about a topic which briefly. The topic is about the global variable and constant. Now, if you're learning UiPath and always get confused between, say, argument, global variables, and constant, then this video is for you. Imagine you build a multiple workflows in UiPath, and now the data flow everywhere. Some values are shared, some values are passed, and some that should never be changed. Now, the big question is, should you use the argument or should you use the variable or a constant? Now, if you choose the wrong, your automation becomes hard to debug or even hard to maintain as well. So let's fix that today. Before we jump into the studio, let's look into analogy or a logic. Think of it as like moving house. Now, arguments here are like moving boxes. You pack them, you label them, and then you physically carry them from one room to another room. Now, whereas global variable, they are like Wi-Fi in your house. Every room has the access to it automatically, right? So you don't have to carry them around. Now, let's understand the constant. They are like house addresses. You cannot change them when you feel like it. So in technological term, what is argument? Well, the arguments are classic ways to pass the data between workflows. Now, they are explicit in nature and you see exactly what goes into the workflow and what comes out of the workflow. You use these arguments when you have specific sub processes where you want to see or where you want to keep things modularized. Now, coming to the variables, which is global variables, they are introduced in the newer version of UiPath. They basically reside or live in data manager and they are implicit in nature. You don't need to pass them between the workflows. You just have to call their name. Now, where exactly they get used or this concept is utilized is that when your multiple processes or XAML file are likely to have those values from those variables, then you can use them. Or the typical example that I can give you is that, in RE framework, you already seen that config variable, which is a dictionary variable. And we most probably 99% we pass that to multiple XAML files. So now that one can be globalized as a variable. Now we'll go for the constant. So what is constant? So see, it's exactly or it's somewhat similar to variable, global variable, but it differ in certain way. It holds the value, right? That cannot be changed at all. Basically, it's in a read-only mode. Even the moment you declare or define the constant, global constant, and provide a default value to it, that value can never be changed throughout your process. For example, you're developing an automation, you tried accessing that variable, you cannot uh, assign any value to it or perform any data manipulations to it. So why we need this constant? Well, it's for safety purposes in the sense you have some kind of a requirement wherein, there are some certain variables that are constant throughout that won't be changing anywhere in the processes, right? So you use that to store those constant values. On a realistic purposes, what I can say is that a time zone. When you probably run a process, if you have a different time zones projects that you're developing, you use that time zone variable to determine the different time zones like CST, IST, and so on. So you use those as a constant value, so it can never be changed. The value of that particular variable can never be changed during the development, during the run as well. Now, the thumb rule I follow, or just for my understanding, or whatever the project that I built, right? So the thumb rule is this is what I follow. First, I'm using arguments for 90 of percent of my workflow to workflows communication. Basically keeps things organized. Have the global variables, the value of it. If those variables are getting utilized in multiple XAML file, almost every XAML file, then I use them as a global variable. Now, when it comes to constant, I use them when, I know that entire project, the value of this particular variable should never be changed. Even by mistake, someone other than me who works on that project, they can never be able to change the value other than the default value from the manager. So this is the general theoretical idea about the um, global constants and then variables and then arguments. Now let me walk you through a simple demo on how we are going to use this, how they are behaving. Now, as you can see, I am in the UiPath Studio. I have created two XAML files. I'll walk you through them. Let me go with the argument XAML file. Argument XAML file has simple information. I have two arguments, in argument, which are value 1 and value. I'm performing a sum of these two values and I'm printing that using write line activity. And then I'll go for a global XAML file. This also does the same thing, but I'm using a different, it's a variable, right? Variable 1, variable 2, and summing them and then printing the value. Now, let me go to the main, and here I'll zoom in and I'll show you. So value 1, value 2, I'm passing in argument. So I'm passing 1 and 3. So the output of this sum will be 4, right? So now before that, let me just apply a breakpoint over here. All right. Now let's run in a debug mode and see how the argument XAML file works. Now you see argument XAML file return 4 as a value, which is what we wanted. Basically, we know the data flow is happening from this workflow, which is when you invoke XAML file, you're passing these value and you can actually understand from where you're getting these data from which XAML file the data is getting passed to. Now coming to the global variables, these two are the global variables. I'll open in the data manager. I'll stop the run. I want to explain a bit more over here. So going back to the global manager, you see global value 1, global value 2 has been created. And you see, I cannot make any modifications with the data type and the scope as well. So you have to be very cautious when you create a variable and convert it into a global. Make sure you give proper naming, select the data type, and then select the scope. So always select the scope at the end of it. Okay, just to give you an idea, I'm going to create a new variable. Okay, so this is my variable 1. Now over here, I have to first select the data type. All right, and then if the next one is that scope, you can provide default value if you want, but the next one is that scope. In here, you see global. If you click on it, now you would see that this cannot be editable at all. All right. Now, all right. So now the next thing is that I have created, as I mentioned, created global variable 1 and 2. I'm not passing any value, but here is where I'm performing the assignment of it. So the workflow of this, if you see, I did a refresh argument and I don't see any argument getting passed to it. Now, if I open this, I have invoked global 1 and then global 2, and I'm writing the sum. Now, let's see how it looks like. What is the result that we get? You see, sum is as output as 4 because the value that I have passed here is 2 and 2. Let's see, I change the value as 3. And let me run the process again. Now you see the value is 5. All right. Now we talked about arguments, we talked about global variables. Now, what are global constants? So, as I mentioned, the global constant are those the value from it cannot be changed. You see here, I created a constant one and I gave a default value over here. Now, this default value I can never change even during the development activity. So, let me show you how it is. Now, here I'm going to call the variable which is constant. You see, I can't you even use a call constant over here. It is not available at all. But let's try writing the variable as wait global constant namespace dot global constant dot constant value 1, and then I'll pass 4. Now you see there is an error. It says property constant is in a read-only mode. Basically, you cannot make any modification to the data. The only way you can make the update to the variable is in the data manager in the default value. I can change it from 3 to 4 or something, and then if I can run it. So let me do one more thing. This is my global again. I'll go to the globals and then I'll un, remove the command, and you see here I have printed down the value. So let's run this and see. Now if I open the output panel, you see 4 is the one we just updated, right? So that is the value that we got. So this is the small video that I wanted to cover and share my knowledge regarding the difference between argument, variables, global variables, and global constant. So now you should never get confused between the arguments, the global variables, and constant. If this video has helped you in any way, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and add a comment below. Which one do you use most in your project? Is it the argument or globals? Looking forward to seeing the comments. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.